Hi guys, it's your host again, Josh from Recovery Talks 24/7. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone that's come onto this podcast show that has shared their story of strength and hope through what people have been through. And I've had many different people that have come on, and people that have suffered from drug addiction, people that have suffered through mental health as well. And we've just spoken purely about recovery, and it's just been absolutely amazing. As well, we have an amazing sponsorship, which is from Money Wellness. And Money Wellness support people that are in debt and people that have gone through any sort of struggles with debt. And I was one of them people. I was one of them people that had a significant amount of debt. And it was causing me so much anxiety, so much stress. And I reached out to this company called Money Wellness, and they supported me every step of the way. So I just want to encourage anybody that's listening to this podcast today, if you are struggling with debt, then please do reach out to Money Wellness, because they do absolutely amazing work. And you can get hold of them on 0161 518 8285. Give them a call. They will support you. Now, without further ado, I've got the amazing, lovely Courtney that's decided that she wanted to come on to share her story of strength and hope. Now, just a little brief outline about Courtney. You know, she hasn't gone through anything to do with addiction. She's just gone through something that has really affected her mental health. And I was really wanting to hear more about her story, more about what she went through, throughout this time. And I know it was a real struggle for her. And I can't wait to have her on here now just to be able to share a bit about her story. So how are you doing, Courtney? You okay?
Yeah, I'm a little bit anxious, but I'm good.
Yeah. Awesome. You'll be perfectly all right. And I'm sure there's going to be somebody that is going to be listening to this today, and they're going to go, do you know what? I related to every single bit of what Courtney has shared. So I know your story is going to be amazing. So yeah, you're going to be fine. Don't worry. Um, so just a little bit about yourself, Courtney, really. Like, can you tell us a little bit about your background? You know, what was your life like before, these terrible relationships that you were in when you experienced like what you shared before, abuse. So can you kind of tell us a bit about your background?
Um, I'm the eldest of eight, and obviously being the eldest daughter definitely comes with its own challenge. Since I've probably been young, you know, me and my mum had a very kind of rocky relationship. We're cool now. Um, And I didn't growing up. I never really had any good male role models. The men in my family are quite aggressive, so all I've really ever known is aggression, and especially towards the women. Um, my dad, he suffered from addiction and was an alcoholic as well. So he never really was in my life. Um, so I think I had a lot of like abandonment issues first from my dad, and then later on from like other people. And yeah, I guess that played parts in my life. Um, yeah, I think it played just parts of my, especially through my teenage years. I think that's when it definitely took. I think everything just went downhill from, yeah, when I was like 14 mainly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously you said then, you've experienced somebody that's been through addiction, but
Mm.
you're seeing it from the outside where you haven't experienced that before. So that must have been quite tough, growing up and seeing that, especially from a man, from a man that's meant to be sort of your role model. That must have been quite difficult for you.
I never really knew he had an addiction problem when I was young. Me and my sister, we used to kind of like, he would come and see my mum when we was asleep, and then he would leave before we would wake up. So he was more that it kind of seemed like he just wanted my mum and not us. Um, and my mum never drunk. But as me and my sister got older, we would find alcohol in the bins, like especially at beer cans and stuff like this. Um, and we just knew it wasn't my mum, but my mum never had men in the house. Um, so it was So we kind of put two and two together that it was my dad. And then, as I got older, when you're in school, you learn kind of like the back slang um, of drugs. And I think I was coming home from my work experience, and I bumped into my dad, and someone basically asked him if he wanted, I can't even remember the word that they used, and I remember my dad's face was like, sort of thing like, "Mm, not right now." And yeah, the guy just didn't care that I was a young person and was there. Um, and I asked my dad, like, "Oh, you know, are you taking drugs?" And he was like, "No, darling, I don't, But when, even back then, looking at that, I could tell he wasn't someone who was like sober. Um, just like, the pimples on the eyes, and stuff like that. Um, so I kind of grew to know that. So it's not, I didn't very much see him in that way, if that makes sense. It was just
Yeah.
more that I had discovered it myself, and as I got older, then my mum was more honest um, with me, and my sister. Um, but yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So that's, you've kind of given like an outline of what it's like, but obviously, from a child's perspective, seeing that, it's part of a bit of a trauma as well, growing up and seeing that sort of stuff. But reason why I reached out to you, reason why I invited you to come on, because I know, from your TikTok, because, we're both on TikTok,
yeah,
and there's some amazing people out on TikTok, and you was one of them. And I was watching some of your content, and it really jumped out at me because I knew that there was something behind a lot of the content that you was doing, and a lot of it was to really give people an understanding and an outline of what's actually going on with, let's say, the most obvious word that is sadly used a lot is abuse. I see it a lot
mhm,
through the content on TikTok. I hear it a lot, and I'm hoping that there's people that are going to be listening to this podcast that may hear about it, but they don't understand about it. And that's why I'm, so grateful that you're coming on here today to share a bit of that. So when you were struggling with abuse, I know this happened when you first met the person who would eventually become abusive. So would you be able to kind of touch on that a little bit for us? Like, were there any red flags that you overlooked or that you didn't recognize at the time when you met this gentleman?
yeah. I'm gonna take you back to 14 just because it links to what I was, the way I was in the beginning. When I was 14, I was sexually assaulted by three boys. Two boys had watched, and that, I've done the whole police thing when I was there because, my mum was like, no, they've got to be basically held accountable. Um, you know, that was traumatic in itself. Um, and then so I was very much like, from then, never really thought like I'd have like a boyfriend because I just didn't have any trust. Like, I didn't have any trust, but in a way, I wanted to. I don't know the right way of putting it. Um, it kind of made me like want that one boyfriend, get married, have kids, because then that kind of leads me to like that safety net that, kind of makes me feel more secure, sort of thing. Um, and so then I didn't have to deal with this whole like dating. A lot of people in my school at the time was talking about boyfriends and stuff, and I was thinking, I was just say to myself, I'm gonna wait till I get older because I just want one boyfriend. Like, you know, even in college, it was a lot spoken about boys and relationships and stuff like that. Um, so when I was at a job, my first job when I was 16, when I first got my job. And then fast forward, they used to do karaoke, and I actually knew his brothers before I met him, and um, that none of them look alike, so I didn't even think they was related. Um, and so we started kind of like hanging out. And I remember this one time he put his hand on my leg, and I jumped. Um, yeah, I had quite a big reaction to a very simple thing, I guess. And he was like, kind of just asked me like why I reacted in that way. And I just said to him, "Oh, it's because I've never really had a dad in my life, so I don't know how relationships are supposed to be." Um, and I used to like blame a lot of how I was because of my dad. That was my main excuse. And then he was like, "No, something else." Um, so I ended up opening up to him about what happened to me at 14. Um, and I feel like a lot when we talk about red flags, I think people really expect red flags, but I think a lot of times that men like this, they have such a great mask, and they really are great in the beginning. And I think he love bombed me. And from what I know of love bombing, like I used to be in the shower and he used to turn up at my house with Swarovski necklace, like Swarovski bracelet. Like he would just do the most. And yeah, I used to think, wow. And most people like in who knew him was like, yeah, out of all the brothers, he was family orientated. And as a young, naive girl, I was like, he's family orientated, like flip click, you know. He's the one who will look after, because he had such a good, how he just, I don't know the right word. Um,
How he betrayed himself.
yeah, yeah. Um, was just this kind of like family man, and I was just thinking, oh my God, like he sounds so different from my dad, and that's all what I wanted. I just wanted someone who was different from my dad. And he was, yeah, I guess in the beginning he was very patient with me, and this is something I go round in my brain sometimes, like continuously, like you know, and sometimes I even ask, like, what did I do? Because how can someone go from that to the abuse that I endured, which I don't have no answers to, because other than the love bombing, there really wasn't no red flags. Like, I didn't see him be aggressive to anybody, you know. Um, Other than the love bombing, I think it was the fact that a lot of people portrayed him to be a family man, and I think that gullible, naive young Courtney was like that. Yeah, that's everything I want, is someone who's a family man, because I perceived a family man to be gentle, kind, all good things, and I guess,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I get where you're coming from. And, first of all, I really appreciate you just kind of starting from scratch then and just kind of painted a little picture for not just myself, but other people that may be listening. And giving us a better understanding, because you painted this picture at the beginning. It's a person that's come in the shining armor, and he's like, he's got everything. And I think it's really important as well when we do talk about this topic, because there's probably some ladies that are listening to this, and probably some men that are listening to this as well, that's with a woman and they don't maybe understand certain things, and you've probably painted a very, very clear picture for them to maybe go, do you know what, that's something that I'm going through, and I don't understand it. So it's great that you are able to go into great detail of what you now understand compared to what you didn't understand before. Um, so you've gone through this experience now. You've got a gentleman that you didn't really understand if the red flags. It was more of the love bombing. He was kind of giving you what you were needing, but you
Mm.
sounded very smart as well. So you kind of knew what you needed. Obviously, knew a bit about your past, knew a bit about what you went through as well in your life. Which I know, when you share that information with somebody, you're trusting that person. You're not going to expect that person to use it against you. So, from doing this now, can you describe the types of, which I know is quite a difficult one, but what the sort of types of abuse that you did kind of endure? Was it physical, emotional, psychological, or was it a bit of both?
Okay, I'm gonna throw a trigger warning because I know it can be triggering. Mostly I was sexually abused.
Mhm.
And it was emotional. There was like rare occasions it was physical. It would When I say physical, I would wake up and he would be on top of me where I can't grasp my air because his hands were like round my throat. And yeah, he slapped me a couple times, but it was more sexual abuse um than it was like there was a lot of gaslighting, a lot of manipulation, you know. Um, so yeah,
Yeah. And when you was going through this now, like, how did you cope with it at the time? What was your coping mechanism that you tried to do to get over that?
I can't lie, I didn't think I was abused. I actually thought it was normal. Um, I think a part of it was because I just wanted that one man, that one marriage, kids by one man, and I just truly wanted to be loved. And um, I think because he had started off completely different, I kind of was like, how can this person be this person? And I was convinced, I was kind of saying, and I'm very understanding. I'm maybe too understanding sometimes, and I didn't tell anybody, that these things happened. One, purely because I didn't really think it was wrong, and especially the sexual abuse. You know, I didn't think you could be a, I didn't think you could be great in a relationship. I almost convinced myself that it was normal for women to just be in pain, and for men to just, even when you are in pain and it is happening and you're in pain. And I remember I was in hospital so much in A&E, and he would never let me go to A&E by myself for these problems. And I remember I was always in pain in those areas, and but I just never linked the two. I honestly thought there was something wrong with me. Um, and no matter what scan I had done, they was like, there's nothing wrong with you. Um, and yeah, I think I just had convinced myself that it was more pleasurable for a man, and this is the pain that women have to go through. And even though even though when it happened, it made me feel very like disgusting and dirty, and you know, um, and thing and things like that. Um, yeah, again, I still thought those feelings was normal, and then I thought, oh, maybe because I had a bad experience with boys, maybe that's why. Um, yeah. Um, but then I was only sexually assaulted by those boys, so it was kind of like I always felt like it was a me problem. I was like, oh, it's me, it's a me problem, sort of thing. Um, when I sorry, I want to say, sexual assault is still bad. I didn't mean to dismiss it like that. Yeah. Um, I guess it was just a different experience from what I went through with my abuser. And that's what I meant.
Yeah.
I don't want to dismiss anyone who's going to be listening to this who's went through sexual assault, because yeah, um,
No.
yeah, it was. So I just didn't really know. So I kind of was just, and I at the time I loved him. Like, I loved him with my whole 5 foot self, you know. Um, and yeah, I honestly thought we was gonna grow old together. So yeah, I don't really know how I dealt with it. I think it's one of those things yeah, I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah. No. And do you know what? It's I think it's very brave of yourself, for being able to share this today. And for anybody that's sitting at home, probably like Courtney did say, there's a trigger. There is probably somebody at home that is still in that situation now as we speak. But like I always truly say, I really do hope that we can just reach one person today. And I know then that's, our job done, isn't it? Being able
Yeah,
to just reach that one person. And I'm sure it will reach somebody that will be able to go, do you know what? I'm going through that, and that makes sense. Um, because it's a common thing, sadly to say, it's a common thing that's happening a lot. And a lot of people um, are doing what you did, Courtney, and have never experienced or been able to meet somebody face to face to be told, I've been through what you've been through, and what you're going through is not right. So I
yeah,
really do hope hearing this on their phone, even if they are in the house with the abuser, that they can go on their phone and listen to this and go, do you know what? This is what I needed to hear. So you've gone into great detail now of the hell that you went through. Something that you've gone through that I truly wouldn't wish that on anybody.
mm.
What was the turning point for you when you realized that, you know what, Courtney, you need to get out of this relationship. You shouldn't be in this anymore.
Um, he picked me up from my mum's, and we went to Southend. I can't really remember what we went to Southend for. It was literally, I think he wanted to pick up something. Um, I still actually remember the place. I just can't remember what was the reason. Um, he had dropped me back to my nan's, and he said, "Oh, I need to drop something off to Walthamstow." I'm sure it was Walthamstow. So I was like, "Okay, no worries." And um, I fell asleep. I woke up around 12:30, 1, I think, and he wasn't back. And I called him, no answer. Called him again, no answer. I texted him saying, "Hey, are you okay? Like, why aren't you back? Why aren't you back yet?" Still ignored. Um, so I think I left him about 20 missed calls, and none of them was, not even a text was got sent back. So in the morning, he had called me, and he was just so angry. He was shouting. He was like, "Oh, my son's in hospital. You can't stop me from going." And that's not in my character, and it's not me at all. Like, and I said to him, "I don't have a problem." I remember saying to him, "I don't have a problem. You go in there, like, but I was expecting you back, and you didn't come back. Like, anything could have happened. You could have just sent me a text saying my boy's in hospital. It's cool. I would have woke up, saw it, you know." And he was just so angry. And you know what? I just had a gut feeling something wasn't right. And while he was with me, he had got his ex pregnant like 4 times, and I took care of these children, like these babies. you know, and regardless how I feel about any person, their kids would never be mistreated by me. Like, you know, they'd have food on the table, clothes on their back. Like, it doesn't matter how I feel about their parent. They're still a child, you know, still a baby. And he knew that about me as well. And you know, that morning, sorry, I sent her a message and I said, I know I've said some horrible things about you, and I'm sure you've said stuff about me as well. I said, but I honestly think he's playing both of us against each other. Um, and you know, I said, I understand if you don't want to talk to me. But yeah, I don't think we should be the ones who are holding that anger and hate we're holding against each other. And she actually messaged back, and for about 2 weeks we had sent each other's pictures. When he was telling me he was going to work, he was going to hers, and when he was telling her he's going to work, he'd be coming to me. And funny enough, like, he was saying, oh, can I borrow money because um for the kids? So I was like, yeah, of course, no problem. And he was telling her, can I borrow money because he needed to look after me. And I never saw that money, and she didn't see that money, or nor did the kids see that money. Um, and so obviously we got talking, we had planned a day, and, you know, we met up. I met up with her. We went to this kids' place and took the kids. Um, and it was a really nice day, you know, like, I don't hold anything against her or anything like that, you know. Um, so yeah, I think that's when it clicked in my head. But leaving is very, very hard. Like, when I had left, um, I was staying at my nan's at this time, and my nan was like the middle house, and he was jumping over fences. Um, he was jumping over fences, knocking on the bedroom window, um, posting love letters through the door, calling me on multiple people's phone numbers, and um, I had called the police. They had told him, you know, basically gave him a warning. He didn't listen. Still doing the same thing. So I'd called him back. Then he wasn't allowed down my road. Um, and then um, I was walking to work. It was around about 8 o'clock, and he just knows. He knows. I didn't really, not someone to just go. I wasn't someone to ever go out every weekend or anything. So he knew my schedule. You know, I was apprentice at this time, and I was on the phone to my mum, and I had a can of Coke in my hands while I was drinking. I know that sounds really bad at 8:30 in the morning. Um, and because he done work here and there with these cars, he was always driving different cars, and he had got out of this car, which I didn't see him in, and um, he just come up and he just wanted to talk to me, and I said to him, listen, I don't want to talk to you, just leave me alone, you know. Um, and I remember my mum asking, like, what's happening, and I was running in the road and I was screaming for help, like, I was asking for help, and there was like a pile of cars, and no one got out to help me. I even threw my can of Coke over him, and he had a wet patch, and I still remember he was wearing like a grey tracksuit. And I just remember feeling so helpless. Like, and yeah, I always go out my way to help people, and, you know, I always was that one person to believe that what you give in the world, you receive. And he had got me. There's like a church down the road, and he had kind of pushed me onto like the fence, and then had snatched my phone. Um, and I chased him back to the car, and he got into the driver's seat, and I opened the passenger door, and I put my knees on the seat, so my feet was holding the door open. So I was like half in the car, half out of the car, and he had grabbed my jacket and pulled me across his lap. And so this time the door had closed behind me, and I said to him, just give me my phone. He start and stopped the motor, and he just drove off. And I said to him, just give me my phone. Like, let me go to work. That's all I want. And then he wasn't budging. And then I said to him, can I just call my mum, tell her that I'm okay, and then, have it back. He allowed me to call my mum. I called my mum and I said to her, we're just gonna chat and I'm okay. And I hung up. Parked in like a road, and it had houses, like a bit like a triangle, and I knew the person who lived in this masonette. And he was talking, and I was trying to get out of the car, and at one point he had laid on top of me in the car, so I don't leave. And I had asked him to get off. I was like, just get off me, like, and I will stay. And I said to him, I'll stay in the car. So he finally got off me, and we was talking, and then I managed to get out of the car and I managed to run. He then had caught me, threw me over his shoulder, and I basically got locked in this masonette with him, and he didn't do nothing drastic to me. He just like pinned me down, begged me for forgiveness. You know, the person who lived there walked in, and I ran. I ran down the stairs, and I always say this was God. And I remember being in the masonette, and I was just asking God, like, please let me leave, like, please just get me out of here, like, I just need help. And I was running, and he was chasing me, and this guy, I think he saw the fear in my face, and he asked me if I was okay, and I said yeah, and he saw like my abuser like in the distance, and he stood in front of me. My abuser stopped, walked the other way, and the guy nodded, and he kind of just nodded at me like this. He got in his car and drove off, and I started walking, and I just turned back, and I see him running again in the distance, and that was it. I started running, and I ran across a motorway, and I was kind of so disorientated, like I couldn't really believe what had happened. And obviously I couldn't call anyone because he had my phone. And I went back to my nan's, and she gave me one of her old phones, I think. And I went to work. I had like an hour left of work, or maybe just over an hour. And yeah, work was like, where have you been? Like, what's happened? We tried to call you, and I told them, and I told them so casually, because at this point it wasn't really digested in my mind. And they advised me to go to the police, and I was like, I can't go to the police right now. I did go to the police after work, and I stood outside the police station, and I just felt so guilty that if I go to the police, his sons are going to grow up without a dad, well, have a negative view on his dad. And I really felt like I was the issue for that. And also I also just felt, what is the police going to do? Because I'd called them times before, and it was just left, you know. And after that, I have a blank spot. After walking away from the police station, my mind's completely blank. I can't remember if I had contact with him after that. I can't remember. All I know is that I moved back to my mum's because she had CCTV, and I felt safer there. Other than that, I've got no recollection, to be honest.
Yeah. So, like, again, thank you so much for sharing with that, because again, you've painted us a picture with the fear that it must have caused yourself, and when you was explaining about, you was trying to run away, and that gentleman, and like you said, people that are at home as well may have looked at it as a God moment or a spiritual moment, whatever that may be. But obviously that guy was in place for a reason, that nodded at you, and it's like
Yeah.
obviously seen the fear of God in you, from that situation. So again, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Because I know that it's quite a difficult subject to talk about. So, and I know there'd be people at home that are probably sitting there nodding or like looking at the wall, going, "Oh my God, this is exactly what I'm going through, and I don't know what to do." But we will get onto that. Whoever's listening, we will be able to I'm sure Courtney will be able to kind of point you in the right direction of what to do. So, Courtney, you finally, got out of this situation. You're living at mum's. You've got CCTV. You're in a safe place. Yeah. I can imagine your mental health is in a mess. Your emotions and everything must have been all over the place. And I remember when we briefly spoke, before we've come on here today, I know you did share about a symptom, which was CPTSD. Is that right?
Yeah.
Have I pronounced that right?
Yeah, you have, yeah.
And obviously, there's probably people at home that maybe not understand it. So can you kind of just give us a better understanding of what that actually is, and maybe explain it in the terms of, so people can understand what that is, and how you've gone about to get help with that?
It's basically prolonged trauma. Um, so PTSD is like one single traumatic event. For example, a car accident. CPTSD just stands for complex. So it's like flashbacks, nightmares, plus more. Um, I have very dysregulation, like I cannot regulate my emotions, and my emotions are very, very like intense. I feel things like 100%, and or sometimes I just don't feel nothing at all. Um, I think because um, I moved back to my nan's, and when my nan passed, I was still there, and I was like it before my nan passed. It just progressively got worse, and I was like incredibly paranoid. Um, I was up hourly checking the doors, checking every room, um, to make sure that they was locked. I was checking windows. I wouldn't ever have any doors open, no windows open. Um, I was very extremely paranoid. If I was to leave the house, I was having, I didn't know that they was flashbacks at the time. And I was having flashbacks. Um, and if I saw someone with the same coloured hair, I would, I would freeze and I would panic. Um, I was having nightmares, like night sweats. Yeah, it was really bad. They even took myself out of my job because I was genuinely becoming, because I worked in education with SEN, I was coming like a risk, um, to both of us, I guess, because I was, doing one-to-one, and I, was having a flashback, and I didn't know how to regulate myself or ground myself or anything along those lines. And I it got to the point where I was so tired because I wasn't sleeping, and um I didn't know why I was going through this. So even though I was having all of these things, I still didn't pin it to abuse. I thought I was I thought I was actually going crazy, and I really felt like I was insane. That gave me more shame than I already had shame for. For many reasons. I carried shame for many reasons in my life. Um, and I had even more shame. And then, like, I was thinking, why am I like this? Like, I'm a crazy person. And, but at the same time, I was wanting to be with someone else because I don't know, like, I was in such a kind of like, um, it is, yeah. And I can't even really explain that. It was kind of, but at the same time, at this point, I still didn't think that I was really abused. I was just going through all these things, and I didn't really know how to deal with it because, you're not shown how to deal with your symptoms if you're having symptoms of anything. And especially when you're going, especially, I wasn't, my family was very much against mental health. So I kind of was, for a long time, refused to believe I have any mental health. And that also gave me a lot of shame that I didn't want to reach out to places to get help because in how people in my family would talk about it was a weakness. And I'm sure everyone else, like, your mental health is not a weakness. And I know that now. Do you know what I mean? But back then I was too ashamed to even think that I had a mental health condition. But that was what I was going through, like my symptoms and stuff.
Yeah. So obviously, like you said, again, I've noticed as well a lot of people that I have spoken to over the time, whenever you hear that, whenever they hear a word mental health, they get freaked out about it, or they may feel like they're going to be judged, or, but today, in this day and age, it's not new. There's a lot of people that do suffer with that. There's a lot of people that struggle with what you've
Mm,
gone through with the CPTSD. There's people that struggle with anxiety or depression, and they may feel ashamed to step forward. But, just like what you said then, you didn't have a clue what was going on until you did step forward and was like, look, I haven't a clue why I'm feeling the way I am. I don't know what it is. And somebody's obviously said to you, like, look, Courtney, this is what you're going through. And I know from personal experience with somebody that has gone through some form of depression many years ago, that point of relief when somebody sits there and goes, yeah, this is what you're going through and it's going to be okay. There is
mm,
support out there is help out there. But I think it's that first initial point where you had to step out and be like, I don't look like an idiot right now. I'm not the only one that's going through this, and I need to understand what's going on with me. So I'm sure as soon as when you did step out and you asked for help and you got the support, that must have real made a drastic change for you in yourself.
yeah. I remember I had a massive panic attack one night, and I was scrolling through my phone trying to kind of get myself out of how I was feeling, and I just kept seeing victim support. I was just seeing ads, like multiple ads. Yeah, again, I don't know if you want to call it God, the universe. And I clicked on it, and part of my brain was like, because obviously it says if you feel like you've been in a crime, contact us. And I was thinking, I haven't been through a crime. But then there was just something in me was like, Courtney, reach out. Just just reach out. And I did. I done the live chat, and they said call us on the Monday. I called on the Monday, and I think I opened I think I had said to her, I think I'm calling you for no reason. I just need clarification because I don't want to call something if it's not it. Um, so I told her the situation and how the grape happened, and I said, is it if it happens multiple times, over a course of years? And I had all of these questions, and I said, and I was like, can that happen in a relationship? And I was going through all of these things, and you know, I did say no, and I asked it to stop, and it didn't, and I was going on and on and on. And when, and I told her about, the way he used to strangle me and stuff, and she was just putting names to it, and obviously I didn't even use the word rape or sexual abuse when I was explaining it. I was just telling her the situation. And when she was like saying it to me, at that particular moment, it was a train come and train wrecked my life in every way. Because from that panic attack, it was like I was surviving somehow. Um, well, I felt like I was surviving. Um, and when I heard those words, a train crashed into my life at that point. And you got to the point where I couldn't leave my house, so I eventually started counseling. Um, and you know, yeah, I eventually started counseling, and that my counselor, she changed my life. Her perseverance, like when I started counseling, I had no value in my life whatsoever. You know, it was at this point, I had it, because obviously you have a waiting list. At this point, I knew what happened to me was wrong. Um, I then had so much anger. I had so much anger, and I was so scared, and I was so paranoid, and I was so tired, and I was so fed up, and I was in like a cycle of like, why me? Like, why me? Just and then at this point, I think I even hated God, because I was like, why is God giving me this life? Why am I not having a break? And at this point, I was just so hopeless and helpless. I felt broken. I honestly felt like my mind was broken as well. Um, and my counselor's perseverance with me, the fight she had for me, and the belief she had in me that I can just do what I feel like I can't. You know, she is just one woman I look up to. Even if I have a bad day today, I always think, what will my counselor say? What will she say to me if, I was there right now? Um, and that kind of reaching out. And I remember the first time I saw a man with the same color hair and I didn't freeze and I didn't go in a panic attack. That was when I really believed in counseling. That, because I did not see a way out. I did not see a way out, because I remember saying to my counselor, I'm still being triggered, I'm still going into a full panic attack. I'm not catching the trigger, because you get taught you got to catch that split second before the escalation. I was like, I can't catch it. I can't catch my trigger. And I was so frustrated with myself. And then I'm getting angry at myself, and then you get taught about compassion, self-compassion, and things like that. So when I first caught my trigger, and I didn't freeze, and I didn't cross the road, and I walked past the person, I was like, wow. I've done a lot of EMDR, I've done a lot of flash, I've done a lot of different types of therapy, and she really saved my life, really saved my life. Um, you know, she really did. Sorry, I may have
That's
yabbered.
amazing. And you that's fine. Honestly, that's perfectly okay. And I again appreciate you just kind of sharing what CPTSD is. Also putting a light on it for for other people that may be listening, um, that don't know what it is, or maybe experiencing it and they've never had anybody else that they can relate to. Because I think that's so important with with podcasts, with people that I've been talking to, is trying to listen to the the similarity and not the differences. That's what I truly believe in. Listening to someone and going, do you know what? That is really similar to what I'm going through, and that is the whole purely the reason why we do this stuff. Why I talk to people like yourself, because it's definitely going to be relatable to somebody else. Um, so you were saying you've gone into counselling, you stepped out, you've done lots of different other things which you mentioned, which is amazing. So thank you so much for mentioning them different places, because again, you kind of took the words out of my mouth. I wanted to ask you, what advice would you want to give to somebody that is in a similar situation to what you was in? So whether they're still in a relationship or trying to recover it, what sort of advice would you give that person right now if they were standing in front of you and they're going, Courtney, I don't know what to do. What do I do? What advice would you give them?
Um, I would tell them to reach out to women's organisation, Women's Aid, NIA, victim support. Get a plan, a secret plan. Um, you know, do it when you're ready. No one can tell anybody to leave. As we know, a lot of women um, get hurt, even killed when they decide to leave. It's very scary leaving. So I would say make a plan. Reach out to women's organisations. They're there. The support is free. Um, and your voice is heard. It's completely different in women's organisations. You really feel heard. Um, I would say reach out to them. I'm not an expert, and I can relate and be there on a personal level. Um, and everyone's domestic violence can be similar, but it's also can be very different. Some people will go through that physical and won't go through sexual, or some people do go through both, and some people just go through one, or even they'll maybe just go through emotional and mental. Um, you know, so I would say definitely reach out. If they're trying to heal and recover, be patient with yourself. It takes time. I'm in my second year of therapy. Um, you know, um, be patient. Yeah. Again, I'm going to recommend women's organisations if you can access um, the internet. Search them up if it's safe, and reach out and go through counselling in that way. I do recommend women's organisations with counselling. You get longer than 12 weeks, and for people who have gone through domestic abuse, um, and it happens over a period of long time, sometimes 12 weeks for NHS offer is just simply not enough. And if you feel like 12 weeks is not enough, reach out. When I was waiting, I got offered self-care groups, which I attended. I also had like monthly check-ins. You have the crisis lines. Um, so yeah, there's support available, and please don't dismiss your pain. Reach out. Your pain matters. Your voice deserves to be heard. A lot of times victims are very much silenced, and stuff. So I would say definitely reach out. Drop in my inbox if you want to chat, um, as well. Um, so yeah, that would, I guess, be my advice. And just have loads of
Awesome, Courtney.
self-compassion. Loads.
Amazing. And that's awesome. That's lovely to hear, is, having self-compassion.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. There is so much support out there. It's just that first initial stepping out and
My
making that
goodness.
phone call. And I know, from personal experience with my own situations of what I've been through,
Mhm.
and through other people I've spoken to in their situations, it's that making that first call is the dreaded part. But from what you've explained to us today, Courtney, you made that first phone call, but dear God, it made a massive difference, because it was like a weight was lifted off your
My God,
shoulders,
yeah.
and that they helped you and supported you, and they wanted the best for you. Um, and that's the most important thing, and that's amazing to hear. So you've just given us some great advice, and obviously people that may be listening, and they're probably writing down some things down. And they're like, "Oh, do you know what? I'm going to check that out." So getting back to you, Courtney, because it is all about you today. Looking back now, obviously you've gone through all of this stuff. You was broken throughout this whole
Mhm.
story. You're a broken person. But now today, looking at you, I would never have thought, even with you sharing this, and even the people at home that are probably listening to this going like, you're sharing all this, but when they see you on here, because they're going to be able to see this podcast on YouTube, they're probably going to go, I would never would have thought, as a woman like yourself that's gone through this. And they're probably itching to know what you're doing with your life now, because a lot of people think they just settle with that's who they're going to be. They're going to just be that person that's got CPTSD, and they're not going to they don't think they're going to go far. But I know today, Courtney, you're doing really good things with your life. So do you want to just share what's been going good for you now?
Okay, I'm in a really good job. Um, I'm in a really good job. I work in the mental health service. Um, and I help people who are struggling with their mental health. And, this doesn't have to be your life. You're worth so much more. And when people go through so much, we can lose that sense of hope. Like, um, even to a point we don't feel like we deserve it, and we're worthy and stuff. So I help people find that kind of like fight. I'm still very new to it, but I really can't wait to get my feet stuck in um, properly. Um, and I dance a lot. I would also say if you're in recovery, if you're not a dancer, it's okay, but I would definitely say movement. Like, I feel like because I felt like I haven't really had control over my body, and that's been taken away from me a lot in my life. That when now I choose what to do with my body, and bring that power back to you. So I dance, and I choose the way I want to move my body, and also people don't realize that trauma gets so stored in your muscles, you know and I remember when I first came out my EMDR session, as much as I was so emotional, not my first one, like when I was previous, like going through the whole section of EMDR, I didn't realize how much my body was tensed. Like just the hot, yeah, and the pain. I always used to be in pain. I still have my days where I am still in pain, especially when I go through triggers and stuff. And I'm not saying every day is going to be glorious, because healing is never linear. And CPTSD is probably something I will live for the rest of my life, but I will manage it, and it doesn't control me. I control it. Um, and I have to keep telling myself that it's not going to control me and I'm going to control it. Doesn't mean that I think like that every day. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I have my bad days, um, you know, but I get up, I go dance. I would say move, like any movement, whether that's gym, dance. Even if you can't dance, just move. Even if you can't do the do the side step, because trust just that movement of your body and do your arms. It's movement, and that movement will just loosen your. Even if you got to do there and shake. There's many times I've been in my counseling sessions and I've frozen, and we get up and we shake your wrists, shake your arms, shake your body, and shake it out, move it. You know, this trauma is trying to protect you. Your body is trying to protect you, and you need to shake it off. You need to shake it off and reach out. And that's what I do. I also do expert by experience. So I also do that within a charity. Um, and I really want to make change for women, because you know, women go through a lot, and we deserve so much better than what so many women, too many women, go through. And yeah, so I guess that's what I do. I do the EB group. I dance. I'm still in therapy. Um, there's never too many times you go back to therapy. If you need therapy, and if you've been there once and twice and you need to go back, go back. Choose yourself. Choose yourself. Go back. Because it's okay if you're not fully healed after one section of therapy. Go back. Advocate for yourself, especially for anyone who's in recovery of anything. I think advocacy, what you want and what you need, not what you want, but what you need to heal, what you need to get that self-esteem back, and what you need to have to build that confidence. I would say advocate for yourself. You know, I practice that all the time. If I'm not comfortable, I say, sorry, I'm not comfortable to do that. It's those little things, getting your voice back. So I do things like that. Sorry, I went a bit left. I went a bit left,
That's
so I
fine.
apologize.
That's amazing. No, honestly, appreciate you you sharing all this stuff. And do you know what? Just before we kind of end it, I just want to, say thank you so much, Courtney, for being able to come on and share this, and share your story and share your recovery journey. Because recovery comes in all different shapes and forms. It isn't just recovery with people that have suffered with addiction. It could be recovery with people like yourself that have suffered through domestic abuse, and people that have recovered, in recovery with their mental health. There's lots of different forms of recovery. So I just think it's amazing that you've been able to come on and share your story and just have the courage to do that, because you've definitely given a message today of strength and hope, for somebody out there today that's listening to this podcast. So I really, really do appreciate it. And you're a shining light for so many other women out there. And may your story be a blessing to so many other women. And, just let the people know as well, to other men as well, because there is men out there that do go
Mhm.
through what you've gone through in
Yeah.
relationships. So we won't forget you, gentlemen, that are listening. And again, there is support out there for men that are going through domestic violent
Mhm.
relationships or have been sexually abused as well.
There's men's
So
only
it does come from
charity.
both sides,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah,
There's men's
yeah.
only
So there is
charity.
men's
Yeah. Men's
charity out
group.
there as well. So before I let you go, Courtney, yeah. So before I let you go, so how can the listeners connect with you or find your resources, if they need to kind of get in contact with you? So is there a way they can connect with you on TikTok?
Yeah, my TikTok is CCARR_X. Yeah. And my Instagram is the same.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So
And
thank you
Courtney,
for
thank you so
having
much for your
me.
time tonight. I really do appreciate it. You've been an absolute jam. Yeah, you've been great. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that's been listening to this podcast episode. I really do hope that somebody's got a message out of this story today, because it's been absolutely amazing and it's been a powerful story. So yeah, thank you once again. Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.